What is up, grinders? Welcome back to another MMA Crunch Time. Before lock here, a little bit earlier, we've got MLB at 7. But listen, early's good in case something happens. This card's already been crazy enough. We got Della Maddalena as the biggest favorite again. That has been canceled before. Hopefully he's not the bad luck charm. But Blender, 13 fights was 14. Next week is the one you're going to be licking your chops. Not to look too far ahead, because this one is wild. You got a little bit of everything. We're missing heavyweights, dude. Where are the heavyweights?
I'm glad we don't have heavyweights. I hate heavyweight fights.
Yeah, slow tempo, I know.
I like this. No, I think this slate is going to be better than next week's slate. I mean, obviously we have 13 fights, unlucky number, whatever. I'd love that the next week to have all 15 fights on, but we can never have nice things in MMA. So I'm expecting one or two to drop off. But this slate it's an apex card. You could always tell by who's on the card, and you look at their records and you go, oh, these are all the people that are fighting for their jobs, because it's all people that are 0-2 and 0-3. You're coming back from a 3-year layoff or a 2-year layoff or something. So the variance in these fights are going to be ridiculous. And the spreads of the fights aren't ridiculous. I mean, other than Jack Della Maddalena at Azat Maxam is minus 460. Evan Elder's almost minus 300. But, I mean, everything else is 2-1 or better, right? Pick'ems mostly across the board. We have all different types of fighters.
There has been a little bit of movement, though, through the week, Blender. I mean, more so than usual, I would say.
Well, because it's high variance, because DraftKings will come out with the salaries on Monday, and then, people will move the line. So we have like mispriced. There are certain fighters that are like 300, 400 too cheap, 300, 400, too expensive based on their money line. But when it comes to GPPs, large field especially, I don't care about the money line. I care about 100 points per fighter. Let's go.
You know what the 100 points per fighter is? The main event is even Holly Holm. Remember, I mean, Holly Holm is just not fantasy friendly. She's grappling. She's grappling more, right? But I don't want to be the starting point, but I'm saying that's like the cherry on top is like, are you going to fade the main event or not? Is your first almost decision making on this slate, I think.
I'm under. I mean, the thing about it is that with Mayra Bueno Silva, she's not really like a wrestler or anything like that, but she does have like submission skills on the ground. So it really comes down to what Holly Holm wants to do. I mean, the fight it's closely lined. Holly Holm is 60. It's like a 62-38, 60-40 type of fight. I have Holly Holm at 32% projected ownership and Silva at 27. I'm under both of those because there are plenty of this is going to be a high variance enough slate that we have underdogs that could beat Bueno Silva in a decision. We have fighters that could beat Holly Holm.
She fits the mold of like upside finish equity. She's just better than Holm in the inside the distance.
Yeah, but I think at the timing of the finish, like the problem with Bueno Silva is that I don't think she gets many points outside of when she finishes. So it could be the type of thing that she gets a third round knockout and scores 75 points or something like that. Holly Holm has much more potential in a 5-round fight. That, she's racked up 15, 20 points per round. The thing is that we have a card where we have multiple viable underdogs. So like Bueno Silva putting up an 80, 90 point score may still not be enough. I mean, everyone, I think, Mike, would you agree that every fighter on the slate is valid? That I wouldn't
guaranteed. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think there's a case for every single fighter on this card. I mean, Hafiz, he could win the first round. So yes, I agree. Everyone is definitely viable, but it's scary to play a Holly Holm fight. Like you said, sometimes a 4th or 5th round finish is even worse than going to a decision, right? Like a decision.
But her price isn't that bad at 8,600. I mean, it's doable. I think I think I'm more likely to play Holm or Bueno Silva in a smaller field contest where I may not have to make the nuts anywhere close to the nuts. Yeah. But I prefer it. It's kind of weird. There's like one fight in the middle that I have in a lot of lineups. And then most of my lineups are barbells.
Well,
Most
here's
of
the thing.
I'm avoiding most of the mid-range. I'm avoiding a chalky Alexander Munoz. I'm avoiding like a Jung Young Park. I'm avoiding an Eileen Perez. Although,
where we really should have started, Blender?
what?
We shouldn't have talked main event first. There's one fight, and one fight that only matters, according to Twitter, according to ownership. It's a Terence McKinney fight week, dude.
I don't think that's the only fight.
Well, but
I think Prado. I think to me, the two fights, the standout fights that are more likely to be in the optimal, regardless of who wins, is Sadikov McKinney and Prado Azaitar. I mean, those are the two that have like minus 550, minus 750 inside the distance. It's a Terence McKinney fight. I know what you have on your lineup HQ blurbs, which you could see if you were a premium subscriber. So go click on that link in the description. Get $10 off your
right now. You can see it right now.
You can see it right now.
It's free.
McKinney's going to be the highest owned underdog on the slate. Whether or not he passes 40%, we could argue that. I have him at 38. He could be higher than that, but I don't think Sadikov is going to be low owned either. I have Sadikov at 29% projected owned.
In the week earlier, he was like 18 to 22. Like he was actually very, very low. So like when I tagged that, he was inherently lower. But I mean, dude, Terence McKinney, what a second and third round, even if it goes that far, Sadikov could do the same thing you and I love, where it's just like he mollywops him for the second and third round after he gasses out. But McKinney also, he could put up like 50 points in the first and still lose the fight.
But he also could put 50 points in the first and win the fight. I mean, the thing about Sadikov, like, I think this fight is lined too wide at minus 150 and plus 133. I mean, Sadikov lost the first two rounds to Evan Elder. He only won by TKO because of a cut stoppage. Evan Elder ain't a world beater. Evan Elder, I mean, the thing about Terence McKinney, you would have to agree, Mike, that Terence McKinney's weakness is his pace and cardio. I mean, like he has 5 minutes. He's actually a good wrestler. He's a powerful striker. He has the skills to beat Nazim Sadikov. If you told me, if I told you, Mike, that Terence McKinney will not gas out, do you think this line should be this way? Shouldn't it be the opposite way?
It would be opposite. I mean, his defense is his offense. That's the problem, right?
Yeah, but whether or not Sadikov could capitalize that is a different story. Terence McKinney has an inside the distance line of plus 140.
That's cool.
He's 7,500. He has a better ITD line than he's the fourth best ITD line. Fifth best. You have a Zaitar at 135, Prado 140. You have Elder, Maxim, Della, Maddalena, who are at minus odds. I mean, Dudakova's 150, Costa's 172. Dude's 7,500. I know I'm not a big fan of playing the most, the chalkiest underdog. I mean, I didn't play Drickus Duplessis last week. I have a ton of Terence McKinney. He is the most likely in a win to score 100 million points in this low range, right? So like,
then you're dealing with win equity down below. That's the problem, right, Blender? It's
right. Well, yeah, a lot of people are going to go to Lingo, Lutz, right? They're going to go to Lingo, Lutz, Nunes.
But let's see. We'll get into those ones, but I feel like win equity. There's actually two upside plays down there. Do you know my two upside plays? I actually didn't tag either of them.
Well, I'm assuming Valdez is one of them.
Well, he has to be, right? It's Valdez and
Valdez is either going to get knocked down 6 times or just kill someone in 5 minutes. It's going to be
exactly Valdez and Nam. Those are two kind of interesting upside plays in their wins, right? Their conditions. Nam isn't good, doesn't have a chin, but at least he throws heavies, right?
Yeah, but Nam barely punches, Mike.
You like to fade him long term with the low striking volume.
Yeah, he is such a narrow. It's like this narrow to get a lot of points. I mean, he's got 5 minutes to land one knockout punch, and when he does, he scores 104 points because he doesn't do anything. I mean, like he has 8 significant strikes and a knockout. I mean, like that, and he's 40 years old at this weight class.
It's
Plus
gross.
590 inside the distance. I'm not saying Azat Maxim is like, he's up against a wrestler. I know people are quoting Tyson Nam has great. Like, I hate these small sample size stuff, Mike.
Yeah.
Tyson Nam's takedown defense is elite. And I'm like, and you take a look at his record. You take a look. His takedown defense is like 70, 80% or something like that. But you take a look at who he's fought. I mean, he's only fought like basically 2 wrestlers. Everyone else is just pretty much a stand-up striker. So, like, how often, was he trying to? Is he trying to stuff like 8 takedowns at once? I think Azat Maxim is just gonna. I mean, that's the path to victory. I think he comes in. He's from Kazakhstan, so obviously, 20 seconds of the fight, he's already shooting. So
hey, don't say that. Remember Zalgis, our boy Zalgis? He's gone. He got cut from the UFC.
He'll be back. His haircut will be back, Mike.
Oh, I know. Marketing machine. But again, that fight is interesting, I think, from a first round standpoint, or Maxim just like grappling him for 3 rounds. I agree with you on that. This broadcast is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. You can sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook if you're in a legal sports betting state and take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers can bet $20 and get $200 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions do apply. Blender, if I had free money to try to throw around, I'm betting on like a Terence McKinney first, and then right when the line switches to Sadykhov, I'm putting my money on Sadykhov and securing some profit. Like,
or what you can't get, there probably is an arbitrage opportunity to do Terence McKinney, TKO KO first round, and then Sadykhov, round second 2 or round 3.
Ooh,
TKO KO.
That's juicy. I mean, those are the 2 outcomes.
I mean, I have to assume that Sadykhov's not going to win by submission, but I mean, it could happen.
Yeah, I mean, who the hell knows once he gasses out. Now, there's in that range that we were just talking about, the Nams, the Valdez. Valdez is a wild man, and that's fantastic for fantasy-wise. You said that you liked that McKinney and then the striker delight there in the middle, the 8K and 8,200. But Valdez and Elder, I mean, Elder probably has sneaky grappling. I see a lot of people talking Elder up, man, and it's a little scary because of how wild Valdez is. Like, if he clips,
well, I think it's more. I think the lines are more of the fact because of how wild Valdez is. Because against Matt Frivola, I mean, he was
a million points.
But Evan Elder, I mean, minus 300 Evan Elder. I mean, like it's minus 160 inside the distance. Evan Elder, I think he's going to be over-owned. I have him at 33% projected owned. Obviously, his upside against Gennaro Valdez, but I just think he's going to be over. I'd much rather take a shot at the guys underneath him at lower ownership. Some look like half the ownership.
Well, ownership's going to go to Nunes. I think we have to talk about that too. Because
you think so? Well,
I think because she's got that first round equity. She is not Terence McKinney by any stretch of the imagination, but I have to imagine she wins the first round. She typically does that in her fights, Blender. She actually has a knockdown rate too. Like, she's got good hands, but I mean, Dudakova isn't good either. I mean, how many weeks in a row have we seen minus 200 women go fall and collapse?
I mean, to me, this is a binary fight. To be clear, I have a lot of Estela Nunes at 6,900. She's my underdog pick instead of Lutz or Lingo. I have a lot of McKinney Nunes lineups.
That's the reason why, is because Lutz and Lingo, those are your money line safe win equity guys in this slate. You and I are finally clicking here, man. We know each other's
business. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know. It's scary.
You're not Dean, so maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah, well, yeah.
If me and Dean are clicking, if I'm building those 1-1-1-1 MLB stacks, DFS is dead.
Austin, Lingo, and Lutz, though. Lutz probably could win a decision and still not score well because of that fight. And then Lingo and Costa, I mean, isn't it on Costa to push a pace in that fight and have any bit of fantasy goodness? Like, Costa actually seems somewhat interesting from fantasy. If he gets multiple knockdowns, perhaps he goes grappling in the first round. I just don't think the pace is there, though, to score very well for the Lingo. And then Lutz. Bagdasarian's window, you love this now. The window is like this on Bagdasarian, man. But he can do it, and that's the problem. Like, at minus, what is he, 200? It's like
he's minus 149 on the money line for a $9,200 fighter. Plus 186 inside the distance. But I have him at 17% projected owned. So I'd much rather take a shot on Bagdasarian other than Elder because two reasons. One, he's 17% owned. He's half as owned, and he's up against probably the second biggest, most owned underdog on the slate for leverage. So like I want to when Bagdasarian scores 100 points, it's going to kill like 30% of the lineups in the contest. Yep. So
the volume is like that. You talked about Tyson Nam. Bagdasarian is pretty low too, striking. That's
but as long as he's low owned, remember the whole thing is that that I don't mind these small window type fighters, especially the favorites. Mm-hmm. I play when they're low owned, not when they're high owned. And Costa, I think, is a much more well rounded fighter than Austin Lingo. I mean, Austin Lingo is basically a one dimensional striker. So like good luck unless Lingo knocks out Costa. Like, have fun with your 68 points. I mean,
and Costa fought like top competition that last time out, just like Lingo, and they both.
Well, I don't think you can count the Moises fight.
Exactly, but it's still a top 15 guy in Moises, and it's like you throw that out, like whatever. And I just think that he's aggressive, but there's a fighter in a fight below Costa that is ugly women's MMA personified.
Are you on this train? Are you on the Eileen Perez train? Because Ashley Evans Smith, 3 years out, she hasn't fought in 3 years. She's coming off of like back surgery or something. I don't think she should have been in the UFC even 3 years ago.
I know. I mean, this could look like Eileen Perez, and this is terrifying to say, could look like a minus 1,000. She could. And I just am terrified that there's negated wrestling in the first. And then we're looking at each other and going, where's the fantasy upside after the first round? It just is it's too ugly. I talk about ugly women's MMA being fantastic. Eileen Perez at least goes for takedowns. Who knows? Ashley Evans hasn't even been training. I don't know. I've been looking at social media. There's a couple narratives. I mean, the weigh-ins, we had two fights, right? Or two arguments between two
what was the other
fighters.
one? I know Dumont and Chandler had a couple.
Francisco Prado's corner was yelling at Ottman's corner and Ottman in the middle of the weigh-ins. And let's be honest, you don't yell at Ottman's. They know a lot of people and what's in the bag too, you know.
Are you saying that they're connected to the mob?
I don't know. I can't reveal my sources.
Is that a narrative?
Maybe there's a narrative that, Francisco,
but that could be the opposite. Maybe he's getting paid to throw the fight.
Oh no, don't say that. I can't say that now. But
James Krause isn't involved with this card, so we shouldn't have to worry about it.
But Ashley Evans Smith also has an interesting path. I don't know if you saw her perhaps wrong things she did during the pandemic, but I do say you should look into it after this. Very interesting.
Affects this. I mean, the line has moved against her at 7,400. She's plus 650 inside the distance, which is the highest ITD line on the entire slate.
She used to be a wrestler, though. Like
keywords are used to be, Mike. You said used to be.
I honestly thought you were going to say to play Evan Smith. I had a glimmer of hope you would be suckered into a girl that maybe at low ownership could wrestle, but
I have more Perez than I do. So I barely have any Ashley Evans Smith, but it doesn't mean that I have a ton of Eileen Perez.
The fight's low owned, which is making me interested in it.
I Perez at 23, which is okay. I still have Costa and Bagdasarian lower owned. I have her as about as owned as Dudakova. So it's like you don't really get her at that much of an ownership discount. Sadikov's underneath her right there with a minus 115 inside the distance line. So really it depends on how many people go to Nazim Sadikov and to go to Holly Holm rather than Eileen Perez. But no, I'm with you. Yeah. Other than the ownership, Eileen Perez was like 15% owned. I'd be a lot more interested. And also, if Ashley Evans Smith was more owned. See, the thing about playing Costa and Bagdasarian is that Lingo and Lutz are. I expect Lingo to be like around 20% owned and Lutz to be almost 30% owned. Like I get more leverage that way. I think I've Evans Smith at 10%, and I go, okay, that's not that much leverage.
My problem, just to circle back on Lutz, is that Lutz could actually score decent over 3 rounds. That's the problem, Blender. It's like I can see him attempt to grapple, and I expect him to probably have more volume than Bagdasarian. That like in a decision win. So, but there's 2 fights that you and I have a mold, right? Where it's one guy takes the guy down or woman. Next fight, next round, boom, same thing happens, but vice versa. And
Are
then
you
there's
talking about
nothing to be
Dumont
had.
and Chandler?
There you go.
Do you like this? What this fight looks like something that you should fade.
It does, but
it looks like it. But how come I have the sneaking suspicion? I'm going to be under. I barely have I barely have either. I have more lineups. I have 40 lineups, by the way. I think I have Chandler in 3, and I have Dumont in 1, or something like that. I mean, Dumont is plus 550 inside the distance, and Chandler's plus 300. I mean, Chandler's has a better line, but I have Chandler at 26% projected owned and Dumont at 14. And I have that. I think they're both over owned. Dumont should be like 8 to 10% owned, and Chandler should be more like 18 to 20% owned. But this could turn in Norma Dumont normally, Mike. Norma Dumont fights are like the William Knight fights.
Oh, yeah, nothing new.
Right. I mean, she stalls out so many fights, but Chelsea Chandler is very aggressive. Dumont is this is a big step up in competition for Chelsea Chandler, but Chelsea Chandler is like a true featherweight. I mean, like, Chandler is big.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know we're talking about the 145. I mean, I'm not even sure if this division should even exist anymore now that Amanda Nunes is gone, but this fight on paper, from an ownership perspective and a betting line and a projections perspective, I have the least amount of, but I would not be shocked.
But isn't it like
if one of these fighters put up 110 points?
If Dumont were to get a takedown every round, I'm like gonna cry.
Do you think it's gonna work that way?
No, I hope not. That's what I'm saying, because that's what I'm fading and praying. Because like Chandler could get exposed. I think Chandler's got a better inside the distance line than Dumont as well, which is more intriguing.
Do you think Dumont's going to even go for takedowns? We always say that, dude. We played Norma Dumont fights before where she faces a one-dimensional striker and doesn't do anything. So like,
exactly,
Chelsea Chandler is going to be bigger than her.
Maybe they just stand in the middle and flip each other off like they did.
That's what I hope for. I barely have this fight. I hope that happens.
Well, there's one other fight. I like Albert Duraev. Why is Albert Duraev not a favorite? Okay, against Park. Like I don't understand that. A guy that has grappling in his back pocket.
In his back pocket that he's not been able to take out of his back. He's taken it out and failed.
Well, he also just kind of like struck with the first guy he fought, Kopylov, and got arguably hurt in that one and had to rely on it.
He's too tentative. I would like Duraev more if he grappled much more aggressively, but we've seen that he doesn't. So yes, he has it in the back pocket, but I can't be that confident that he's gonna take it out before like 2 minutes before it could be the third round before he shoots a takedown. And like it could be that. I'm not a big fan of Jung Young Park. I mean, this fight, if Park had his way, this is going to be a boxing match, right? Mm-hmm. Park could stuff takedowns. Park isn't bad on the ground either. I mean, not like Duraev, but I think Duraev is pretty overrated. I'm not a big fan of this fight as a whole. I think this fight goes the distance more times than not. And if it goes the distance and Duraev wins, he's more likely to score more points than Park in a decision for 800 cheaper. So yes, I do have more Duraev, but I'm not these mid-range fights like Dumont, the Munoz Deaton fight, the Park Duraev fight, the main event, HOLM BUENO Silva. I mean, outside of the Prado Azaitar fight in the middle, which good luck trying to analyze that fight. It's basically just going to be a brawl for about 3 minutes, and whoever gets knocked out wins. I mean, that's kind
flip a coin,
right? Flip a coin. These mid-range fights. I mean, I see you getting 80 points out of the winner, but I see underdogs that have more shots at more than 80 points than some of these mid-range fights.
Do you agree with the ownership saying Azaitar is going to be higher owned than Prado? Is it a salary thing? It's just okay, because with it being such a crucial spot, I mean, they could put up a crap ton of significant strikes over, the first and second, and even in a second round finish at 8,200, you're looking at 90 points, 95 points. I think it's going to be enough. So I agree with you. It's an important contextual.
Right. I have a Azaitar at 32% projected owned and Prado at 26.
Interesting. Younger guy, lower owned. Interesting concept.
Well, I mean, but it's also the less experienced one. I mean, Prado. I mean,
oh yeah,
right?
Yeah. No, I mean, don't talk about what was in the bag in Dubai. Remember that?
Oh yeah. Oh, he's that guy.
That's what I was alluding to earlier,
That's the guy
Blender.
with the bag.
What's in the bag?
What's in the bag?
What's in the bag?
What's in the box?
Well, we will go on to the one fight we haven't talked about, and one that it almost sounds like you're going to play the biggest underdog on the whole entire slate. Are you interested in some basil?
I put it on my pizza, right? Basil.
Yeah,
you put basil on pizza. I don't know. It's a spice.
I've been tweeting all week. The UFC signed an ingredient, a literal food ingredient, basil. But listen, this fight is interesting because 9,700. You're paying another premium for Jack Della. I can't get by you. This is your mold, Blender. 50% owned, has to be perfect. The really 2 to 3 ways that he gets there: multiple knockdowns, first round, quick win. That's it. I don't know how he scores well at 9,700 outside of those really perfect ways, right? Like
Mike, he's under owned, Mike. He's under owned.
No, don't say. But you sounded like you baited me. You sounded like you were going to play basil.
No, I mean, you can't. I'm just saying it's not one of these like the biggest underdogs that you can X out, only because Basil Hafez is a wrestler.
Yes.
And because he's a wrestler, Della Maddalena is more of a striker. That there's an instance where Hafez lays and prays on him, and at 6,500, you don't need to do much. You can win with 80 points. I mean, like that in a decision, in a I'm not submission or something. But Jack Della Maddalena, let's go through the betting line. He's a minus 650 win probability. That's 87%. Minus 360 inside the distance, 78%. His first round odds are minus 155. Oof. You know what that implied probability means? 61% of the time. I have his projected ownership at 46%. Well, you know what a round one finish does to you? It gets you 100 points, right? The question is 108 going to be enough? Like at 9,700 compared to some of the 9K fighters that are here. Like, I mean, we have guys, Dudakova and Bagdasarian are not even 2-1 favorites. Costa is barely a 2-1 favorite, right? And then you have Elder and Azat Maxim. Like, it's quite possible Elder goes to a decision with no takedowns and scores 92 points or something, and Maxim scores 101 or something. Maybe 108 from Della Maddalena is fine. Last week's slate, we have so many people. Dude, we had 4 quick win bonuses.
Insane. But
we had 9K fighters that all have that ability. Della Maddalena is the only kind of the one that stands out. I have him as under owned at 45% owned, and he's in more than half my lineups.
That's terrifying. I mean, like you said,
but understand that he could, if Hafez can't take Della Maddalena down, it could be one of those fights like you mentioned before. What the guy is just he's a sitting duck, and the fight, and depending on who's the referee. This is the type of thing that Della Maddalena has 70 significant strikes because they haven't stopped the fight quick enough. And next thing you know, he's 122 points.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mark Smith. Just continue that. But the last fight, really, we didn't even talk about. And I don't think we need to talk about, to be fair, is the Munoz and Deaton. But I think Deaton is, I don't know why. I mean, is he the lowest owned outside of the 2 biggest underdog?
Yeah, he's going to be the lowest owned because he's the most mispriced. I mean, based on these lines now, Munoz is a minus 220 favorite. So Munoz should technically be like 8,800 and Deaton should be like 7,400. And really, Deaton, what's his path to victory other than just random knockout? Like, really, that's kind of what it is. I don't think Munoz is that great, but I mean, Munoz is most likely going to wrestle, right? That's his path. And I'm not sure if there's a finish here. I mean, Munoz is plus 300 inside the distance. Deaton is plus 500 inside the distance. I think for cash games, you're plugging in Munoz at 8,300, no problem. But
he's got a floor.
Yeah, he's got a floor. You're right. But
I mean, he's 22 points, 57 points. But say you give him the win points against Pena, he's at 87 points. And on this card, you're happy in cash, right?
Yeah, but not in GPP as much, right? I think the winner of the Prado Zaitar fight is more likely to outscore him.
Yeah, which is that just is the icing on the cake here. Is like
Right. The problem in the Prado Zaitar fight is that one guy's going to score 100, the other guy's going to score 5, and you don't know which one it's going to be. So flip a coin and have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's fun, but
well, that's it.
Yeah.
Have fun with the sweat. Have fun, whatever.
Yeah. And again, this cast brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. You can sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook if you're in a legal sports betting state and take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers can bet $20 and get $200 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions do apply.
I will be in a legal betting state in 2.5 months.
2.5 months.
September 28th, Kentucky mobile sports betting.
Let's get a sidetrack for a second. Will you hedge out your lineups when you get to that point now?
I can.
Say you can. Will you do it?
I mean, if there's an ability to lock in money, sure. The problem with doing that is that will I have the highest? What are the limits on my accounts that I'll even be able to do that?
Hey,
will I be able to say going into the last fight? It's like I either win this or win that. Let me put 20 grand down on one side. And then it goes, 20 grand. We can $5.72.
It refreshes and it refreshes until the line is gone. Okay.
Right, of course, right.
Yeah,
that's really the key of anything else. Typically, when I hedge out or do anything like that, it's more privately.
Totally understand. And listen, next week I told you about 15 fights. Noon start. It's a coffee card. England. And you know what? You said you like this card more than that one. That one I think has been, the lines have been out. Like, I don't think there's going to be as much movement. Like this week, there's been a ton of movement late, but this Aspinall versus Tybura.
I take this back. Next week's cards, like a lot of these fights are like close.
That's what I'm saying. It's a closely line. This is your card more so than this week.
Oh yeah, 15 fights where like most of the fights are under 2-1. No, maybe I like next week more than this week.
But you know why you got suckered into this week? It's because it's so low totem pole, low barrel, horrible. And I know where I'm gonna be. Eileen Perez, baby. Bring it to the promised land. I mean, sad, but and then Prado and Azitar, I'm gonna be on the wrong side. But final thoughts from you, Blender?
Nope. I think that's good. We got the MLB coming up. Crunch time on the next stream. So go check that out. Hit the like button. Give me those thumbs, right? Hit the subscribe button if you're new here, right? Also, I always talk about on Fridays, the MMA, you can go back to the pregame show. You'll have time, right? The slate doesn't lock till 7. So feel free. I did like 20, 25 minutes on the slate yesterday for the pregame show. So
Producer Rob, we have to give a shout out to World Series of Poker, like big cash,
138th place.
Hell of a run. A lot of work. 130
5 days. Imagine playing poker for 5 days straight in a tournament. Oh,
I can't imagine, but I can't wait to hear the stories. For Blender and Devin, thank you for producing as always. We will see you guys next week. I did it.